It is Monday night. Monday night after a Spartan victory here at Chalmers Field over the weekend, as the Dubuque Spartans with a 56-28 victory over the Nebraska Wesleyan Prairie Wolves to go to 2-1 on the season, 2-3 in conference play, as the Spartans winning that game really put it on in the second half and giving the Prairie Wolves just their second loss of the season. And Coach Stan Zwiefel joining me this evening. And the coach, always satisfying to get a win. And, Nebraska Wesleyan, you knew it was going to be a tough opponent. They've been playing.
Much improved team.
Yes, much improved. And you could see that Saturday as well.
Absolutely. Best Nebraska Wesleyan team we've played since they've joined the league. And they really showed some resiliency in the first half. You know, we got off to a 14-0 lead, and we really had a plan that we were going to come out and show some empty and play with four wides in our tight end, and that plan really worked well for us. We thought we'd get them in a certain front and coverage, and they did, and we had some nice execution by our whole receiving core, including our tight end, Jamari Jenkins, and then Casey Moore had a phenomenal game, I thought. He was very accurate in some very tight windows and played under some duress there. And so I really felt really good about how it started. And then we had some things take place that created a lot of adversity, Tim, which I was proud of how our squad responded. We had a kickoff, and the young man's knee touch catch and a kickoff. And our plan in that kickoff, Tim, when they kick to a certain area of the field, we're going to fair catch it. And our returner did not and touched his knee down on the 17. And then we fumbled the next play, and they scored 14-7. And then we fumbled the next play, and they tied it up 14-14. And then they went ahead 21-14. And I thought the biggest single aspect of that game, Tim, happened when we got down 21-14. I think we got the ball left with about a minute and 36 seconds left just before half, and we drove it down the field. And Casey did a great job, and our receivers did a great job, and our offensive line, again, for the third game, no sacks on us, and we threw a touchdown to tie it up 21-21. I really felt momentum had swung to Nebraska Wesleyan's side after they went ahead. You could see it, and our sideline was a little bit down, and Coach Hookstead did a great job of engineering our play calling going down the field to tie it back up. And as I mentioned, our whole 11 did a great job. Our receivers caught, our offensive linemen blocked, and our quarterback made great decisions on execution. And we went down to tie that game up with 21-21. And, Tim, I don't know if you noticed, when we came out in the first start of the game, boy, we had great energy. It was maybe the best energy we've had all year. I talked to the squad a little bit about having some fun. I don't talk about fun a lot, Tim. That's just not the nature of
Not
who
a fun
I am.
guy?
I'm not a fun guy. No fun league, NFL. But anyhow, I told our guys, hey, let's go out and have some fun and have a lot of energy. And god dang, we did that and jumped up 14-0. And then I thought we lost some focus, Tim. Those two mistakes I talked about previously, those are mistakes of focus. They're not mistakes of a physical error. They're not a mistake of a coaching error. They're not a mistake of a scheme area. That is just loss of focus. And so we fall behind. And I was concerned looking at our sideline, looking at our men when we fell behind after such an easy lead that we got, Tim. And then, as I mentioned, that drive to make it 21-21. When I got back at halftime, I really felt our team was energized again, and we really had got excited. And, Tim, the other thing which I think really got us going in the second half, in the first half, we got a targeting call. Now, Tim, I knew it wasn't targeting. I saw great, and you guys played
We saw the replay. Yep.
A number of times. You could tell it wasn't targeting. And so, again, you know, whatever. Tim, I'm not criticizing the officials because you can criticize officials on almost anything that happens. But I told the back judge, you missed that. That's not a targeting call. And, of course, at halftime, when it's a first-half targeting call, you go to up to the film room and you take a look at the replay. And, of course, it's a no-brainer, as you said, Tim.
Yep.
He had hit him with his hands. He hit him in the chest, and he was on the goal line, et cetera. So they announced it just before we start the second half with about 90 seconds left, and the sidelines went, woo! You know, just like, hey, good news.
Yeah.
And it really was.
Really.
And that really sparked us because I had mentioned to the squad, he's coming back. I'm telling you, fellas, it's a non-issue. That was not a targeting call. So the very first play after the kickoff, we cause a fumble, get a fumble return. We go in 2 plays and score. And then from there, Tim, I really felt that we were in control of the game from there on in.
Yeah, that you summed it up beautifully with the drive to go into halftime, like you said, and then that big play where the turnover just seemed to give you the momentum.
It really did.
Right back. Break down the first half a little bit more. You jumped out to that 14-0 lead. Talk about that opening drive. I mean, that was, like you said, you came out with a lot of energy. 11 plays, 75 yards, and you really got the tight end, Jamari Jenkins, involved in the offense all day.
One of the things that they did, Nebraska Wesleyan, that we had saw on tape is when you got into a spread set, meaning to the fans, no backs, could be 3 to one side, 2 to 1, 4 to 1, or 1 the other. They deployed their outside backers way outside the hash marks. So that left only one guy inside the hash marks lined up against our tight end. And Jamari Jenkins is a really fine athlete. He's got good hands, runs well, good size, 6'2", 230, and runs very well. And we thought we'd be matched up with that Mike backer when we got in that formation, and we were. And we isolated on him. And then when you move the Mike backer over the tight end, then it puts the other outside backer in kind of a covering half the field with no help. And then we hit our inside receiver a couple times on matchups on that. Casey was sharp, good rhythm. We protected all those things that you have to do, Tim, when you get in a situation where you're going to throw it frequently, and we did throw it frequently. One of the things we wanted to do, and we've done a good job this year, Tim, in our 5 games, we scored on 4 of our 5 games on the first possession, either touchdowns or a field goal. The only one we didn't was UW-Platteville. So we've continued to come out of the blocks pretty fast. I think that has a lot to do with our offensive staff game planning, putting our guys in situations. But, Tim, that doesn't matter if you don't execute. And I said to Casey after the game, he made some phenomenal throws in that game in very tiny windows, very accurate. He ended up being 28 for 35 or 29 for 36, one of those two.
Yeah, 28 to 35, 306 yards, 4 touchdowns. And, his longest throw was 27 yards.
Yes.
So that tells you.
We were moving the ball very intermediate ways and quick game. And I just thought that he executed our game plan about as well as you can. Now, when your quarterback plays at a high level and puts the ball on receivers, you're going to have some success. And then after we got out of that empty, we went back into our 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 1 running back. And we were able to establish our run game very, very well. Both Devin Moore and Fabian Jackson had nice days on the field. And again, if you noticed, Tim, and I know you did, they were trying to substitute their speed package when we got into our spread, and then their heavier package, their bigger down line when we got into our 11 personnel. So again, now you're creating some confusion, you're creating alignment problems, you're creating communication problems. All those things worked out like we wanted them to work out. And so that being said, I thought jumping off to 14-0 was just what we had planned. We don't plan to catch the kickoff with our knee down. We don't plan to fumble a hitch, and we don't plan to fumble the running back. And those plays allowed them back in the game in the first half.
Yeah, that's nothing you work on in practice,
no,
for sure.
That's for darn sure.
Putting some more numbers on, the running game. Devin Moore, 80 or 79 net yards, a touchdown, 5.3 yards per carry, and Fabian Jackson, 6 yards a carry and at 48 yards. So, like you said, run game did work very well, and the receivers. Not only was Casey accurate, really spread the ball around.
Did. And Tim, that's one I really think is probably different in this year more than any other year in our throw game. We've always had highlighted 1 or 2 receivers and always had a really nice run of 1, 2 receivers since I got her in 2009. But this year, we have probably 4 or 5 guys who are in the top 10, top 15 in the conference. And, we got Wade Sheets, who had a big year last year, our leading receiver's back, and he's just a big target. He's a really good player. Torrey Butts is having a heck of a year for us as I don't know if he's our second receiver, our first receiver, our third receiver. I don't know. He's one of those 3. We got, say, Cameron Bryce, who's a physical kid, had 2 touchdowns on Saturday. and we got Hunter Preston, our slot, who's had a really, really nice year. So you got 4 guys you're spreading the ball around to, but Jenkins got into that role now on Saturday where we split him out from the alignment. Usually he's a tight end attached to the offensive line. We put him out, moved him out in a 2-point stance, and let him show his receiver ability. So those things that we did there were really, really good.
Yeah, Sheets had 9 catches, 99 yards by the stat sheet I see here. I mentioned about Jenkins. Bryce, 5 catches, 64 yards. Butts with 4 catches, 37 yards. So a good day all around. Other side of the ball, defensively, you really played well at times. Alex Ratchett really was a force. He caused that first turnover that occurred and allowed you to score that touchdown to put you up 2 touchdowns.
I got to say this to you. First of all, Saturday, our best defensive player, Brock Carter, was ruled out in concussion protocol. Really unexpected by us and really a big blow to our defense. Brock's our starting free safety, but he's the communicator back there. He gets guys lined up, and his intensity and enthusiasm and his energy level is unmatched by anybody on our team. Extremely disappointed that he wasn't able to play. So we replace him with a freshman. Ben Egan steps in there and plays a marvelous game, and he gets the targeting call and removed from the game, and it wasn't targeting. Now, Tim, I got to think the football gods were not smiling on me at that particular time because our number 1's out and his backup is out, and wow, now we put another young man who did a great job the time he's in there, but that's not expected, Tim. You're not expecting to play with your number 3 safety in that situation. And I thought our defense really responded well to Brock being out. And in the second half, we got after their run game. Now, let me tell you that. And we held them, I think, to -2 yards in the second half, if I'm not mistaken, Tim.
Yeah.
But we really did a nice job in the second half of making them become only throw the ball to move the ball. So that part was good. Again, we got some pass rush on them. We got some pressure on them. I think I told you last week that was a key, I thought, in this game to get some pressures on him. We knocked the first-string quarterback out, and the second-string quarterback came in. He got knocked out. The first came back in. But I will say this, number 7 for Nebraska Wesleyan really kept him in the game, that slot receiver, that wide receiver. But overall, I was very pleased with our defense. And, of course, we created some turnovers, and we created them to become only thing they could do is throw the ball. So they were one-handed, and that really makes a difference when you're playing defensive football.
Rushing yardage, they had -2 yardage for the game, according to the stat sheet I'm looking at. So, that just really accentuates how well you played against the run. Couple other highlights, I guess, if you will. Interception return for a touchdown. I think that was your first defensive touchdown
this year. It was, and it was Delvon Bell, who's playing. We kind of rotate in our corners, Tim, so far in our first 5 games. And he made a nice interception, a return, jumped a hitch route, and timed it up beautifully and took it in. And that's all, a defensive touchdown is like, oh, my God. It's just like, it's like, woo, baby. That's something that doesn't happen very much. And that just added to, I think, our emotion and our enthusiasm on the sideline. And I was really excited to see Delvon make that interception because he's been as low as number 3 in our depth chart in fall, and he's battled himself back to put himself in a starting position.
And late in the ball game, got a touchdown from second unit guys, Rodriguez to St. Hilaire, and he was pretty excited about that.
Oh my God, those 2 guys were. I got to just set this up for the fans. Duke, that's Derek St. Hilaire. We call him Duke. I call him the Duke of Earl for whatever. Whatever.
You don't sing the song.
I do sing the song to him, Tim. And
you don't have to do that on air.
Okay,
all right, that's great.
We don't want to make it too bad, but he's been a backup for us here for 2 years, and he's got just a wonderful, wonderful story about his life. Immigrated to Florida, and his mom's been very, very ill for about 2 years, and there's been a lot of adversity in his life outside of football. He's hung in there, and he's a marvelous, marvelous young man, a great story. and he works his butt off every day, and you like to see those guys have some success. And Ben Rodriguez, who was our 3 till Ben Galte got hurt, he got in the game, and they threw a hitch, and he went in for a touchdown. Duke was excited, my friend. And what was really fun is the players know some of the things that Duke's gone through on the outside of football, and they were genuinely excited for him. And I told Benny, 1 for 1 with a touchdown. You got a perfect passing rating, my friend, so good for you. But that was exciting to see your subs get in and play and do some things.
No doubt about it. And great to get a win. Put you 2-1 in American Rivers Conference play, 56-28 victory. And just any final thoughts on that win that we didn't discuss?
I'm going to tell you, Tim, I believe that Nebraska Wesleyan's going to win some more games. You and I had spoke about where they were last Saturday at this time, the best they'd been in the 7-8 years, whatever it is they've been in the league. I told Brian after the game, I think they're going to beat somebody, maybe beat 2 more people in the league, especially when they play at home. If their quarterback stays healthy in 7, they can beat you. They've got enough offensive firepower to do so. So I was happy we won. I was not happy about the penalties that we had, Tim. I send in clips every Saturday to the officials about things they miss or things I think they miss, and et cetera, et cetera. We've had a lot of penalties in the last 2 games. I'm not sure they're all warranted, but the penalty is a penalty. We talked on Sunday with our men, and we try to do everything we can to eliminate those type of penalties. But it's hard to curb enthusiasm, in my opinion, Tim. Mm-hmm. And if you can't play the game of football enthusiastically and hard, then there's something wrong with that, in my opinion. So I thought some of the penalties were not warranted, as I mentioned. They missed a couple calls. The targeting was a terrible call, and the pass interference that gave them 7 points was a missed call. But that being said, you've got to overcome that stuff, and I thought our team responded appropriately.
So the next opponent, the Wartburg Knights, we'll talk about them in just a moment here, as you'll be playing them this Saturday with a trip to Waverly. So we'll discuss that ball game. But, Coach, one thing I wanted to mention,
yes.
Paul Meisner sent this out during the weekend, and it was about the Key City Clash. Of course, there was fundraising going on. The gate receipts went to very deserving 4 children. The University of Dubuque Department of Athletics diagnosed with pediatric cancer, and of course the Redmond family was beneficiaries. And boy, congratulations! There were $5,000 raised, and certainly
we'd surely like to congratulate Loris on their part in that too. Also,
yeah.
Key City Clash is always well attended, as you well know, and it's always been an exciting game. And anytime you can help, the money is spectacular, yes, but I think anytime you can make an awareness of cancer, we're all affected by it. We all have people we know, family, friends, all those kind of things, that relatives that have either had cancer or passed away from cancer. And anything we can do to help awareness, maybe that'll spark some donations down the road. Whatever those things that happen, Tim,
yeah.
A lot of times those things snowball and really end up being beneficial to a lot more people than just the families that we were helping on Saturday. So thanks to everybody for that.
And it says here, to anyone looking to donate, the family is a Venmo set up for a son, Everett, at Everett-Redmond. So if you want to donate that way, you can certainly do that. Well, Coach, we turn the page, and you're looking at the next game on the schedule, and that happens to be against the Wartburg Knights. We've talked about them on this program before, discussing what they're going to be like this year in the American Rivers Conference, and they sure have lived up to those expectations this season.
They have. They've moved up to number 3 in the AFCA Division III poll this week. That's the highest they've ever been. They're behind North Central and Mountain Union, and I'm not sure they're as good as North Central and Mountain Union. I will give them a hell of a compliment. Back in 2005 and 2006, we went and played Mountain Union for the national championship, and they're as good a football team as I coached on, so kudos to them. It'll be a major challenge for us, Tim, in the following way. Their front seven is as good as anybody I've seen, and their back end is as good as anybody I've seen. So defensively, they create just a ton of problems. They're giving up hardly any rushing yards this year, and they're really making teams be one-dimensional, throwing the ball, and then they'll get after you with their movements up front, and they tackle it well. They're just a good team, Tim, and I haven't seen many better teams, if any, from 2009 when I joined the league in this conference. So they'll be a formidable opponent. For us to be able to play with them, we have to do a number of things. Number one, we cannot turn the ball over. If you punt 15 times, you punt 15 times, but you turn the ball over, you're going to create short fields, and their offense will take advantage of that. Number two, you got to play mistake-free. I'm not talking about just only turnovers. I'm talking about blocking schemes. I'm talking about executing, catching the ball, getting the ball out of your hands, doing those kind of things that allow you to stay in the game. Third, god dang it, you got to tackle. The Clausen kid is fantastic. He's breaks, tackles. He's got yards after contact. I think he's probably as good as I've seen at that in the league, of running through the first tackle and second tackle, impressive. And then just the leadership and veteran players that they have on their team, Tim. We were talking about it before. They have 20 guys who have played more than 30 games starting on their football team. That experience can't be matched, and they play like a team that has great experience, great depth, and great understanding of the game. And really, I think one of the things that is motivating those guys as I watch them, and I've been in those situations before, is you play this well, you're going to get a home game all the way to the national championship game. If you can put yourself in the top 3, 2, 4, you might be able to play home games all the way to the national championship game. When I watch them, they appear to be hungry and motivated all the time, whether it's 7-7 or 49-0, they're playing with that kind of intensity. As a football coach, I really appreciate that, Tim. I've challenged our men that we're going to have to match those things I just talked about. And if we don't, it'll be a long day for us. And I've told our guys, you've got to play every play to match that intensity, because that's how they're going to play.
They're second in offense in the league behind Co. 455 yards a game, but like we discussed, number one defensively, 230 yards a game, just 53 yards rushing. And I think they just kept that up from last year. That's where they were so good.
Yes.
You didn't play a bad game last year, 25-0, but it was just tough to move the ball against that defense.
We actually held them to their lowest point total, I believe, during the 10-game regular season, Tim. But we weren't able to move the ball. That's exactly right. They really physically pounded us, and we turned the ball over, I think, 4 interceptions, if I'm not mistaken, in that game. So let's hope we learn from that part of it, Tim. Again, I'm going to say to you now, it'll be a tough challenge. We'll have to play really close to our best game we possibly can, and then make some big plays, whether that be a turnover or a big pass play. One of the areas that I'm hoping we can exploit a little bit, and when I say that, it's us, not them. Can we get some yards after the catch? Can we get a couple of our receivers open and somebody make a big play? I'm hoping our offensive line can continue to protect the way they have, Tim. That's been one of the really bright spots in the last 3 weeks for our offense, is the accuracy of the quarterback, being able to spread the ball around, as you mentioned, to our receivers, and then our ability to protect the quarterback. Those have all been pluses for us. If we can continue that, maybe we can find a way to give them a football game that put ourselves in a position in the fourth quarter we're still in the ball game.
Guess they've been tested just one time. Coe College took them all 4 quarters, and Wartburg eventually overcame in that one. What was Co able to do so well that kept them in that ball game?
They got a 95-yard interception return, and
a big play.
Big play and a big really turnaround. And Co is probably the second most physical team in our league next to Wartburg. And so they were able to, they didn't get a lot of yardage, Tim. The 21 points is misleading in that game, because Wartburg only really gave up 7 points based on field position, but they were able to maintain and stay in the game and play physically really well, and they did a good job of limiting Wartburg's run game and forced them to punt the ball probably more than I thought they were going to. And Coe is a really good football team, Tim. I think I'm a voter for the AFCA, and I put Coe in the top 15. I've got a good understanding of what a top 15 team looks like, and Coe is one of those top 15 teams. So Coe was able to not turn the ball over and get a couple turnovers. But I told you this, I think, earlier when we talked maybe a couple weeks ago about it off the air. Wartburg kind of turned a switch on in the fourth quarter and played with a little bit different motor than they did in the first three quarters and kind of wore Coe down. So we can take some things out of Coe, but we're not Coe's football team. We are who we are. And so we have to do what we can do and what fits what we've been doing, and that is, like I've said, protect the passer, spread the ball around, and try to have an efficient running game.
Motivationally, you're always wanting to win a conference championship,
yes.
And, you still have a chance,
we
especially if you win this ball game.
If we win this ball game, it would really throw the conference in a heap, wouldn't it? Really, everybody would be the same. The top four would all be the same.
One loss, yep.
Yeah, so that part is really interesting. I think the other part is, I've told you this before, when I got here in 2009, we thought the two programs we'd like to emulate the most would be Wartburg and Central, the ones that have had the most success. And we haven't had very good success against Wartburg. Me specifically haven't. It's probably the one team that has been really a thorn in my side, or whatever you want to call it, my Achilles, whatever those terms are, they have been that. I really want to go Saturday and play a representative game. I want to play hard, I want to play clean, and I want to make this game a contest. And we're going to challenge our men to be able to play one play at a time and really accept the challenge of playing one of the better teams in the country, if not the best team in the country, Tim. So there ought to be motivation that way for us.
It's 1 o'clock kickoff. It's
I'm going to correct you. It's a 1:30. They changed it to 1:30.
Thank you.
First of all, we thought it was noon, then it was 1, then whatever. So we called over. Then I'm glad that it is a 1:30 kickoff. Okay. It's their homecoming.
Okay, so 1:30 kickoff at Walston Hoover Stadium there in Waverly. And, Coach, I know you're looking forward to the challenge. Anything else you want to add before we turn you loose for this week?
Yeah, we're really excited about it, Tim, and we should be. We'd like to win 2 games in a row. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. And, one of the things we've been getting better in certain areas. We got to get better in all areas, and we have to play a pretty complete game.
Well, Coach, again, 1:30 kickoff, and fans that can't make the game, Jim and I won't be broadcasting, but they'll have a stream of the game available at udspartans.com from Wartburg's video broadcast feed, so you can check it out there if you can't make it. But hopefully it's going to be a nice fall day. I haven't looked at the forecast.
It is supposed to be a little bit crappy. We're going to get rain in the morning, 20 miles to 25-mile-an-hour winds, and 45 to 47. Now, that can change. It's going to be coolish. God dang it, that's a good thing, my friend. I just don't know about the precipitation and the wind.
I know they've had to have nice days over there in Waverly for football, but I can't ever remember going over there.
We haven't been one of those days, my friend.
I haven't. It's either blowing 50 miles per hour or even snow in the air.
Absolutely.
So. Oh, my goodness. Well, good luck, Coach,
Thanks, Tim.
on
I appreciate
Saturday. And we'll talk to you next week at 5 o'clock here on Monday night.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. Stan Zwiefel, head football coach of the University of Dubuque, joining us on the UD Football Show this evening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next Monday night. I'm Tim Larry on udspartans.com.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.